Welcome to Up at 11 with Keena. We're so excited to be broadcasting to you, into your home, into your car, into your earbuds, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Honestly, we're grateful for you. We don't take your presence lightly. This is a brand new podcast, and our focus is you. There's some information that we're excited to share with you. There have been some things hidden from all of us for a very long time, and it's time that we know. It's time to be informed, and it's time to be empowered. Welcome to Up at 11 with Keena. We are glad that you're joining us. We have the pleasure of having Dr. Kedar Griffo with us again. We're following up from our first interview, which aired on January 25th. Please go find the link and check that out if you haven't had opportunity to do so as of yet. We'll definitely have some information down below in the comment section to give you the information that you need to reach him and to get in touch with him if you have more questions or you want to invite him to your organization, to your seminar, to your church, to your youth organization, specifically young Black boys. That's one of the focuses of the Zoser Research Society is building people, but more specifically our young Black men, which is what we need, and we're excited about that. We'll just jump right in to following up on last couple of episodes. We talked about the Bible, we talked about religion, we talked about a lot of great stuff, and highlighting Dr. Griffo's book, one of his many books, God, the Bible, the Planets, and Your Body. I highly recommend that book. So we're just going to jump in and we'll catch you up more later in the show. If you're new to Up at 11 with Keena, we'll definitely catch you up to speed later down the line. So my first question for you today is, during our last interview, you touched on sin. We're talking about some scripture in the Bible, and you shared, which I know had a lot of people on the edge of their seats, about the word sin and how it's related to a moon god. First time I ever heard it. So first tell me how you interpret the word sin in the Bible, and then you can go on to explain and enlighten us on that word.
Okay. Again, first off, thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure. You do great interviews, so I enjoy these, and I will never be that tired where I won't, be able to do these. Now, as far as my interpretation of the word sin, because I look at the Bible from its esoteric, hidden meanings version of the Bible as opposed to the literal interpretation. Now, with that being said, I understand that the Bible is a play on the dualities of masculine and feminine energies, with the sun being the masculine and the female representing the moon. This is one of the reasons why, if you look at most of the men's name in the Bible, they end in L for the sun, whereas the women's name end in AH, which represents the moon. So you got Hawa, which is Eve's name in Hebrew. You got Rebecca, you got Leah, you got Dinah, you got,
Wow.
Layla, and on and on and on, Deborah, So you start to look at that and you're like, why is it like that?
Wow, yes.
And then you go back and you look at that in Egypt, they had the moon god whose name was A-A-H, which got shortened to A-H when it was borrowed by those Kabbalists who rewrote those Egyptian stories and funneled them into the Bible as esoteric stories. So, but before we get to Egypt, we're going to stop in Ur, which is where Abraham was from. They said Abraham was from Ur of the Chaldees. When you look up the word Ur, it means fire. Okay? But also in Ur was a moon deity named Sin. S-I-N. So he was called Sin in Acadia. He was called Nana in Sumerian. You know what I mean? They had different names, but he was called Sin. And for those who understand the mysteries behind the sun and the moon, the sun gives us our personality, whereas the moon gives us our emotions. Okay? Yeah. Now, when we're dealing in our emotions, as opposed to with our brains, we tend to react based off of emotions, and we don't always make the right decisions based off of those emotions.
Okay, ladies.
Right? That applies to men as well.
But true, you have both. Yeah, duality. So absolutely. Yeah.
It applies to men as well. So when you look at the concept of sin, because you got to realize, the Bible talks about God being a son, S-U-N. That's found in the book of Psalms. God is a son. So you kind of look at that and like, well, what are they really saying there? But when you're following the Heavenly Father, aka the Son, which gives us our personality, you're dealing with direct information, you're dealing with direct thoughts, you're dealing with direct actions. When you're dealing with the moon god, which we know that the moon affects our emotions. We understand this. Every time there's a full moon, there's always something going on. If there's a new moon, there's something going on. There's a crescent moon, there's certain energies that are affecting us that, we have to admit that exist. So moon deals with your emotions. So when you're in your emotional state, you're not thinking right. You're not thinking logically. Hence, you are sinning.
Oh, wow.
Feel it? You're sinning.
Wow.
So the Bible always tells you not to sin. Don't do this. That's a sin. That's a sin, because it's dealing with your emotions. If you stay inside of your emotions, you're going to always sin. But if you step outside of your emotions and deal with just right information, right concepts, then you're no longer sinning. You're living in the way of God. But if you consent to your emotions or your countenance falls, then you're dealing with sin. So when the Bible gives you this concept of sin being bad, it's because it's talking about you dealing with your emotions and you're not dealing with what you should be dealing with. So that's where the concept really comes in. Is that you're giving into your emotions as opposed to staying logical.
Man, listen, we could just end the show there. I'm done. Welcome to this week's affirmation. Here we go. I am grateful for another chance to get it right. I am making progress towards my goals. I am moving forward, closer to my dreams. I am responsible for every experience. I am taking advantage of every good opportunity that arises. I am an amazing manager of my time, my energy, and my resources. I am extremely productive. I am grateful for another chance to get it right. I am making progress towards my goals. I am moving forward, closer to my dreams. I am responsible for every experience. I am taking advantage of every good opportunity that arises. I am an amazing manager of my time, my energy, and my resources. I am extremely productive. Okay? You are that. Write it down, say it again, say it every day. Get it in your mind, your heart, and your spirit. Speak it, believe it, be it. You are that. You are amazing. I should have known that. That was phenomenal. That, I know that's going to really, I think it's going to really liberate a lot of people. It's going to empower them, because, speaking on sin and what many of us have always interpreted sin as, I have to kind of segue into sex, believe it or not, just from my own personal experience and what I went through because of that, because I was a young Christian on fire for God, saved, I was just, holy. I was so holy that, really, I was very serious about my salvation and my relationship with God. And my area of weakness was fornication.
That's everybody's in the church's weakness for a lot of reasons. But, when people understand that, that there was an appointed time for sex. Mm-hmm. There was an appointed time for reproduction. You look in the animal kingdom, they have mating seasons. Humans were supposed to have mating seasons, but humans, kind of got caught up with sinning. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so they lost, the knowledge of reproduction, for generating, not necessarily reproduction, but just the art of having intercourse was a science behind it that people are now coming back into the awareness of. And you would use it to manifest certain things that you needed in this particular lifetime. You know what I mean? It wasn't just because I saw you as good looking, etc. It was supposed to be more sacred and more planned and disciplined than just the way that we're just utilizing and giving away our life force, especially for the men. So we are given a certain amount of oil in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And when we expend that oil just loosely and recklessly, then once that oil goes all gone, then that's when we wither away and die. See, this is why when the Bible speaks of that story of Onan, who spilled his seed on the ground, as opposed to getting his brother's wife pregnant, it was a sin because he was supposed to retain that oil, which I think we talked about in the last session, was called shemen. Yeah. It's called the anointing oil, Shemen. And, it's a Hebrew word. You can look it up. You ain't got to believe me. You can look it up.
Right.
And it was the anointing oil that would anoint the stone. This is the stone right here. Mm-hmm. You remember? Because they said that Jesus was crucified at Golgotha, which is the skull, which means skull in Hebrew, and in Mount Calvary in Greek. Well, Calvary comes from the word Calvinus, which means, again, the head. So this was the stone right here that is anointed with the oil, because the oil comes out of the third ventricle in our brain, and it circulates. It's called cerebrospinal fluid, but in Greek they called it chrism.
This week on Ask Anik, our question came in from a beautiful young lady who wants to remain nameless. I'm so glad you wrote into the show. Her question is pretty simple. It simply states, how do you know that you're in a toxic relationship? Well, baby girl, I'm so glad you asked. Now, let me say, honestly, if you're in a toxic relationship, nobody needs to tell you that you are. You already know. Let's just look at the definition of the word toxic. It's poisonous. It's dangerous, destructive, harmful, unsafe, or deadly even. Again, sweetheart, nobody needs to help you come into the awareness of the fact that you're in a toxic relationship. If you are, you already know that you are. Now, let me also say that it doesn't mean that you're in physical danger. It doesn't mean that you're being physically abused or that you're in danger of being harmed physically. It could be toxic to your spirit. It could be toxic to your mental health, to your mindset. It could be dangerous for your heart, for your self-esteem, for your self-worth. It could be detrimental to your bright future. So just because someone isn't laying hands on you physically doesn't mean they aren't dangerous. Okay, you have to put yourself first. You have to love yourself enough to be okay being alone. The most important relationship that you will ever have is your relationship with yourself. So thank you again for asking the question. And for those of you who know you're not in a toxic relationship, maybe you just want to know, how do you know that you're in an unhealthy relationship? Well, let me just ask you this. How do you feel around that person? Outside of the sex, outside of the nice compliments that they give you. I'm not talking about when they're stroking your ego. I'm not talking about, the fact that you guys look so cute together, or, all those warm and fuzzy things. Put all that to the side. How do you feel when you're around them? Do you feel safe with them? Do you feel accepted? Are you able to freely be yourself with them? Can you freely express yourself? Or are you hiding? For me, personally, healthy relationships are those relationships where you can freely be yourself with people who accept you for who you truly are. We live in a society, unfortunately, where we're driven or persuaded to be somebody other than who we truly are. We're always trying to fit in, right? We change our accent, we change our hair, we change things to fit in. It is my belief that if you're in a romantic relationship with someone, it's just like being in a relationship with yourself. When you're by yourself, when you're alone, you're free to be yourself. If you have somebody in your life, somebody that's that close to you, somebody that you're intimate with, that you're sharing yourself with, you got to be able to be yourself. That's detrimental in my personal opinion. So that's the ultimate end all and be all from Anique. This is Anique speaking. So you wrote the question in, and I'm giving you my answer. I'm not an expert. I'm just an expert at what I believe and how I feel and what I know based off my experience. And I say to all of you who are in relationships, be with someone that you can be free with. Be with someone that you can be yourself with. Whatever that looks like. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Share yourself with yourself. And then find that partner that you can freely be yourself with. Yes, and Dr. Griffo goes into extensive detail about some of the things he just shared in his book, God, the Bible, the Planets, and Your Body. Phenomenal piece of literature, life-changing information in here. Again, we're here for those who are ready to look beyond religion, who are curious about some hidden truths that we believe once you come into the awareness of, that you will be empowered on so many levels. And we are excited about those of you who are listening, who are willing to do that, to start that journey. And Dr. Griffo's books are a great resource for you to begin that journey. Next question for you. As much as I would love to continue talking about intimacy, relationships, sex, that's something we're going to get add to the list of shows to have Dr. Griffo join us on. He talks about relationships a lot on his social media platforms. He helps enlighten men and women alike. He starts conversations that need to be had so that we can rebuild our relationships as Black people. So I definitely want to talk about that in another interview. So yes, if you would please speak on the lost books of the Bible and what your take is on why there was an effort to destroy those books.
I wouldn't necessarily say there was an effort to destroy the books, because when you look at the Bible esoterically, you got to then understand why the Catholic Bible has 72 to 73 books and why the Protestant Bible has 66 books, right? Let's start with the Catholic Bible, okay? Mm-hmm. Which was, Catholicism was the first form of Christianity. Now, organized Christianity. Mm-hmm. So, being that it's called in Greek, the Helios Biblios. Helios, sun, Biblios, book, sun book. The sun, as it makes its from Earth, because the Earth is on a 23-degree axis, and then it has a needle, imaginary needle that comes up through it, and as this needle does this, it takes exactly 25,920 years to go in this wobble, right? As it's going around the sun, but it's also wobbling. So it points to each individual zodiac age that takes 2,160 years each. Mm-hmm. The sun, as it appears to us, takes exactly 72 years every 1 degree. So as the sun goes in a 360-degree turn, it moves 1 degree every 72 years. Yeah. So that's where you're getting why the Catholics have 72 books, sometimes 73, but originally 72 books. It was called the Septuagint. Septuagint, sept, 7, 70, 72. They would give you the clues with the meanings of these Greek words. But again, because people don't do the necessary research, they miss it. So then when the Protestants rebelled against Catholicism and they removed 6 books, yes, and left, how many books left?
66.
666. Okay? Now, they say the number of the beast in the Bible, and that's really talking about a man, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing. Remember how I said the Earth is on a 23-degree axis? Mm-hmm. Now, how would you measure that 23-degree axis? By putting it inside of a 90-degree right angle.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
Subtract 23.4 from 90, and tell me what you get. 90-degree angle.
90-degree angle.
You subtract 23.4, which is the degree that the Earth is on.
Wow.
And you come up with 666. So again, they're dealing with sun information because the sun was the most important thing in the ancient world. Yes. Still the most important thing now. We try to act like it's not, but it's still the most important thing now. So you're dealing with hidden information.
Starcast. Stars. Star. Has anybody told you that you're a star? What does that mean? There are stars in the sky, shining. Shine. Are you shining? Yes, you are. You're a shining star. So let's talk about you, let's talk about me, and let's shine. Let's shine, shine, Starcast.
For this week's Starcast, we're going to focus on our Pisces, of course. It's Pisces season. everybody. Pisces celebrate their birthdays from February 19th through March the 20th. Pisces is a water sign, one of 3 water signs. Pisces is a mutable water sign and very receptive. Pisces is ruled by the planet Neptune. Of course, Neptune is the planet of dreams, the imagination. They're apt to explore spirituality on a higher level than most others. Neptune is a planet of no boundaries. On a very balanced level, Pisces can be very intuitive, very present. They're very tranquil, very mindful. They have a strong compassion for others, and they're very connected. Pisces actually rules the 12th house of inner strength, of secrets, of intuition. The part of the body that Pisces governs is the nervous system, the reflexes, and the immune system. Pisces are known as the dreamers, right? The mystics. The symbol of the Pisces is, of course, the fish. As we know, some of us know, we are leaving the age of Pisces and entering into the age of Aquarius, which is really, really, really special. We're in a really amazing time to be alive, to be aware, to be conscious, to be awakened to deeper truths. As above, so below. The Pisces new moon is set for this Sunday, February 23rd at 10:32 a.m. New moons are a great time to start planning ahead, to set your new intentions, and to write down your goals, okay? Specifically for the areas that Pisces rules, which are your emotions, your intuition, and your creativity. So dive into those areas. Don't be afraid to look into your emotions and see what's there. Is there anything in there that you need to develop, that you need to explore? So let's take advantage of this beautiful new moon in Pisces and explore our emotions, our intuition, and our creativity. Let's manifest, let's create, and let's make magic happen.
To not only enrich themselves intellectually, but to enrich themselves financially.
Yeah.
Some of them did. Excuse me. While the church utilized the information to enrich themselves and keep us poor.
Spiritually.
Right, because the whole 10% thing was not about bringing money to the church. Even if you go and take it from a literal interpretation, if you go and look up the word in the book of Malachi, it means storehouse. It doesn't mean temple, but there's a difference between a storehouse and the temple.
Yes.
You know
wow.
what I mean? And even going there, you got Abraham did what? He was the one that met the king of Salem called Melchizedek, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where it started, where Abraham gave him 1/10 of all he had, right?
Right. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Whoa.
Melanin.
Wow.
Melanin.
Melanin, yes.
Which is the dark matter, right?
Right.
Mel, which is the root of the word melanin. Chi is energy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the deck is 10, DEC.
Mm.
So the universe is dark matter, 10%, same thing that's in our brain, here, dark matter. So this is what you're dealing with, again, is solar. That's nothing to do with giving 10% to the temple, to the church, as they've been teaching us. That there was absolutely no part of that. The 10% was given to the priesthood because they didn't work, if you're taking a literal interpretation, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tribe of Levi did not work. So their whole thing was to take care of the temple.
Right.
So then you had to give 1/10 of your grain to them so then they could feed their families. You had to give 1/10 of your livestock to them so they could feed their families. That had nothing to do with bringing it all to the church and the church getting rich and you staying poor.
Yes.
You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But even on a higher level, when you break down the word Melchizedek, you'll be dealing with dark matter, which is what we only see 10% of the universe from on Earth. So that whole Melchizedek, which is male, melanin, chi energy, dark energy, that 10% of the dark energy, we only see 10% of the dark energy when we look out there. That's all.
I'm just like blown away. That's we hope, like some of you may be like me. I mean, it's fascinating. It's a lot to take in. Like and my thing is finding practical ways to how do we break that down and apply it to our daily lives. You know, that's what I'm trying to, you know, as I take it in and you know, it resonates with you if you know, listen with an open mind and expand your perspective, because we're so they've trained us and conditioned us to be very small-minded, to just condense everything to our small reality. But really, like some people say, you know, the universe is inside of us, you know, as within, so without, as above, so below. You know, we have very, very few of us have scratched the surface to really discover how amazing we are and our full potential. And this is the beginning of tapping into that information, is looking beyond, is taking into consideration the fact that a lot of these scriptures, probably most of them, you know, the meaning is so broad and so vast and so expansive. Like, we're limitless beings. You know, my son he's fascinated about, he wants to have superpowers, you know, and I'm right there with him. You know, I don't tell him that it's impossible. I believe that we have the ability to do the supernatural. I really do. And it starts with opening yourself up to understand and receive the magnificent truth about who you are. So we hope that you're enjoying the show. We're going to take a quick break. And after the break, we're going to talk about another one of Dr. Griffo's books, Out of Egypt Have I Called My Son. And it highlights and teaches about the Black people that are in the Bible. So I'm looking forward to jumping into that question right after this break. Discover you are divine. Many lead their lives as a body with a spirit or a soul. However, the deeper truth is you are a spirit or a soul with a body. Some call their eternal self their spirit, others identify it as their soul, and we also have some group of people who may refer to this part of them as energy. Let's not get distracted by labels. It is all the same. Discovering your divinity is about connecting with that part of you which is eternal, that part of you which never dies and never ends, that part of you that is like God, that part of you which continues on when your body is no longer a part of this physical realm of experience, that part of you that moves on to the next dimension, to the next experience, to the next reality. Yes, you are eternal. You are a spirit, a soul, eternal energy with a purpose. And the beginning of that purpose is knowing that you are that. This moment has been brought to you by Discover You Are Divine. We're talking about some of his books. We've been talking about God, the Bible, the planets, and your body. And as we jump into this next question, I want to talk about Black people in the Bible. Another one of Dr. Griffo's books is called Out of Egypt Have I Called My Son. which highlights the Black people that are in the Bible, and that's one of the many things we've been misled about the, we talked about imagery last time we were together, and how those images in the Bible are of people of European descent, and which is far from the truth, actually. So
I just like to give a little background on that book, and then we can go into that. As I was talking to people, and it just really shocked me that in today's time that people still can't grasp a Jesus that's our complexion. So they would use things like, well, he was of color. What? So dealing with people, and I mean, these are people I knew personally, that I talked to for years, and I'm like, what? So that's what made that book come about. Now, to get into the meat of the book, pretty much everybody in the Bible was Black, with the exception of about 10 tribes. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, we've always heard, especially from racist white folk, that Black folk were cursed with the curse of Ham, and
yes.
You know what I mean? We got the dark skin and the big lips and the elongated body parts and the big booties and the this and da because of Ham looking at his father naked while he was drunk, Noah, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's the story.
And we never looked into that story.
Never looked into it.
From Europeans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you go and you look at the story, about Ham, seeing Noah naked, and then he didn't say anything, and then the other two brothers came in and put the cover over Noah, to cover him in his nakedness. And so when Noah woke from his wine, he said, "Cursed be Canaan." Stop. There was no Canaan. There was only Noah, his 3 sons on that boat.
Right.
So who was Canaan?
Who was Canaan?
You see? As you go along later and you read Genesis chapter 10, when it gives the genealogy of Ham, then you see that Ham had, these sons. He had Mitzrayim, which is another name for Egypt. He had Phut. He had Cush. So when the Jews try to call us Naker, I'm gonna use that word, Nakers.
Yeah.
They call us in Hebrew. They would say Cushi, and that's their equivalent to Naker. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but when you go through Ham's genealogy, he had a son named Canaan. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you go through Canaan's genealogy, you'll find that he had 11 sons, I think it was. And then when you go through their sons and you're like, okay, all right, what's the big deal? Mm-hmm. So as you go through the book of Leviticus, you'll find where, first you remember Noah said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brother." Mm-hmm. So they took that and they said, well, those must be the Black people because they're enslaved. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did. But when you go to the book of Leviticus, you'll find where Canaan was cursed. And you'll find out what the curse was. The curse on Canaan, on 10 of his sons, 10 of them, not 11, but he had 11 sons, but 10 of them were cursed. The curse was the skin turned white and the hair turned a thin yellow. Now, let's see. The skin turns white.
Are you kidding me?
This is in Leviticus chapter 13, as well as Leviticus chapter 14. So you read 13 and 14, you'll find what leprosy is, because it says, "Cursed be Canaan, we put the plague of leprosy in the house of your possession." Okay? So when you go and you look at that and you say, well, okay, well, what's this plague? And then the plague will tell you, well, if you got a scab on your skin, and if the hair is this color, if the skin is deeper than this, and that's this type of leprosy, or if it's that type of leprosy, you know what I mean? It would give you the different types, whether or not you were a clean leper or you were a still affected leper that could still affect people, or you were contagious. Mm-hmm. Okay, but when you go and read chapter 13 and chapter 14 of Leviticus, you'll start to see, like I said, yellow thin hair. Who has yellow thin hair? Black people have yellow thin hair.
They do not.
We do not. It says that the skin turned white. Do black people have white hair?
No.
I mean, white skin.
No, sir.
So then who does that describe?
Wow.
From the root to the fruit. 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 From the substitute the mind of destitute. From the root to the fruit. Free your mind from the institute of unworthiness. We will no longer persecute ourselves. We reject all false prosecution. We affirm that we now constitute as a nation of kings and queens, absolute about our magnificence. Telecommute from the home base of pride. Rebooted, reconstituted, transmuted, space suited. From the root to the fruit.
So I'm sure there are many others of you out there who may be hearing this for the first time. I mean, is everything in reverse?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So then you find out, I think reading we know the story when Abraham was about to die, right? Mm-hmm. And he told his servant, go to my homeland and get a wife for my son. I don't want my son to marry the Canaanites amongst whom I dwell. That's in either 24 to 28 of Genesis. It's been a minute, you kind of got it. But, anybody that wants to read it, I'm sure they're familiar with the story. So Abraham didn't want his sons to marry the Canaanites. Well, why not? If God wanted all of us to be equal and, the whole thing, why didn't Abraham, who was God's most beloved at the time, not want his son to marry the Canaanite people? Right? Then you go a little further, and then you'll find out when Isaac was older, he said the same thing. He told his children, don't marry them Canaanites. Marry amongst my kin and kindred. You know what I mean? Amongst my tribe, amongst my people. Mm-hmm. Now, God didn't have a problem with Abraham marrying Hagar, who was an Egyptian. Right?
Right.
God didn't have a problem with Moses marrying an Ethiopian.
True.
Right? Now, his sister did. Miriam did. And what happened with Miriam in the book of Numbers, chapter 10 or chapter 12? She complained about it, and God turned her white. White? What color was she?
She was not white. She was black.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just think about it. The whole Moses living in Egypt as the Pharaoh's grandson.
Yes.
He had to look like those pharaohs. I've been to Egypt. I know what those pharaohs look like. So how could Moses live there for 40 years and not know? How could Jesus live there for 12 years and nobody know that he was different than the regular Egyptians?
Exactly.
You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So again, then you start to look at Esau got mad at his dad, right? Esau and Jacob were brothers. Esau and Jacob were brothers. So then whoever their dad was, he got mad at it. And he married or had sex with one of those Canaanite women. Mm-hmm. And God killed the firstborn.
Wow.
So then you go and move on to, let's say, David. David did what? David looked at Uriah's wife, Bathsheba, and he lusted after her, right?
Yes.
And then had Uriah killed. And then David took Bathsheba and had a kid. And what happened to that first kid? Killed.
Yes.
Died. Why? Because Bathsheba was of the family of the Canaanites. So was Uriah. So even though Abraham and the tribes of Israel moved into the land of Canaan, which was, according to the Bible, a white land, God gave that to them as an inheritance. So they lived amongst these white folk, but they weren't supposed to mix with these leopardous, yellow skin, yellow hair, pale skinned people. You follow?
I do.
And when they did this, when they would mix with them, the firstborn would always be killed. And then Solomon came later, you know what I mean? And he was described as, you know, of course, this is just from a literal perspective.
Yeah.
He was described as having a ivory color with black hair. So what do we do when we see these kids that are mixed with black and white, have that particular complexion?
Yes.
And he was one, being David, being a black man from the tribe of Judah, and then Bathsheba being a Canaanite, or from the descendants of Canaan. Then, you know, would have that interracial thing going.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this week's show. Please join me next week and tell a friend. Affirm with me today. I am worthy. I am an amazing expression of the Creator. I am healthy, whole, and productive. I am loved, supported, and protected. Stay up. Peace.